Money, money, money. It feels like that's all you hear when you talk about Boston.
And Boston has its benefits, but it also comes with a pretty big price tag.
Well, it's not easy to deny that the cost of living is going to the moon, but this city has so much more than that to talk about. A city filled with extremely charming streets, unbelievable history, and a passion that can't be manufactured. I'm here to answer one simple question. Is Boston still worth it? Come with me as we go find out.
Good morning, everyone. We're in Boston, and I'm unemployed, and Paige is going to work. So everybody say hi to Paige before she goes to work, before I spend my day making a YouTube video.
Hi and hi.
I cannot think of a better place to start this video than over at the USS Constitution in Charlestown, so that's where we're headed. So I do have to address some biases in this video. I lived just about 15-20 minutes north of Boston my whole life. My grandmother is from the north end of Boston, so I spent a lot of time here when I was growing up. So it's probably gonna be a little bit of a biased video. But with that being said, I do think Boston's an incredible city, and I think that's pretty apparent for anyone who's ever visited too. It is feast season in North End, Little Italy of Boston. That's why you'll see some of these banners up. Just don't let yourself be fooled. This part of the North End is a very lively part of the city. It's just 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, so nobody's out playing baseball or bocce or basketball or anything, but this part is usually really, really lively in the late afternoon, especially in the summer. And it is a beautiful summer morning this morning, probably just about 70 degrees, sun's out, not a cloud in the sky. In my opinion, pretty typical for what you'll get for a Boston summer day. We don't need to talk about the winters right now, we'll talk about that in the cons for sure, but going to be heading over to the Charles Bridge, make our way towards Charlestown. So kind of like I was saying, Boston has a ton of really, really cool neighborhoods. The first one, just as we're kind of getting close to the Constitution now, is Charlestown, Massachusetts, which is one that I think kind of has like the most character, the most charming. It's got some cool stuff, obviously, the USS Constitution, which we'll see, and Bunker Hill Monument, which we'll see. But the place overall, it's a good vibe. It's more like a family-friendly vibe. It's a good spot. So here we're coming up on the USS Constitution, which is significant because it was built in the late 1700s here in Boston. And it's the oldest Navy boat still in commission today. So now starting at the Constitution, I can't think of a better walking tour to do in Boston than walk the Freedom Trail. So let's do it. As we're going to start walking back over the Charlestown Bridge, that kind of brings me to one of the other pros of Boston. That's definitely one of the better ones. We're going to be walking right by the TD Garden. As you see, I got the Celtics hat on. I've been a Boston fan my whole life. I'm from here. The sports are great. The culture is great. If you're at a bar during a Sox game, a Pats game, Bruins, whatever it is, the bar's going to go crazy. If you're at one of the games themselves, the culture is just unbeatable. It's a lot of fun to be at. My personal favorite is definitely a Sox game at Fenway. A $22 beer in your hand, $8 Fenway Frank in the other hand. You can't beat it. You can't beat it. You can see the Bunker Hill Monument off in the distance as we're heading over the Charlestown Bridge back to the north end of Boston. Boston's historic North End, which is a neighborhood near and dear to me. That's where my grandmother lived for my entire childhood, so I spent a lot of time here, played Little League here, played basketball here, all that fun stuff. And it is home to, in my very biased opinion, some of the best Italian food in the world. There's a bunch of restaurants. If you go on Hanover Street, you'll see about 35 amazing restaurants, all absolutely delicious. You'll see some of that coming up in our next food video. Wait for that one. So just working our way up the Freedom Trail, we have made it to Copp's Hill Burial Ground, the second oldest cemetery in Boston. And the oldest gravestones in these parks belonged to the Kopp family, the youngest being David Kopp, dating back to 1661. And then continuing down that same street, you're going to see Old North Church right at the end of it, another pretty significant historical landmark. So if you're starting to kind of see where this video is going, if you're a big history buff, this has to be like one of the top cities in the entire United States for you to come and see. And of course, the significance of the Old North Church being the warning to the city, the British were coming with 1 lantern by land, 2 by sea. The 2 lanterns showed up, so they knew that the British were coming by sea. Fun fact. And then once you get right through the Old North Church, it brings you right through the Paul Revere Mall. Beautiful little park right in the north end. As we're going through here is the Paul Revere house. Obviously, Paul Revere known for making the long ride to Lexington to warn the Patriots that the British were coming. I'm gonna veer off the Freedom Trail for a second here, head over to the Boston Public Market. I think this is just a cool place to show off. I like it in here. Sometimes get some stuff in here. It's cool. One day I'll be able to afford that. Okay, fine. Yes, I did just walk by all those amazing cafes in the North End to go to Dunkin'. Yes, I fall into the stereotype that I love Dunkin' Donuts. No, I do not feel bad about it. Shut up and leave me alone. It's kind of a good spot to talk about the nightlife in this city. It's not crazy. If you're a crazy partier, Boston probably isn't the spot to go, but anytime you're at Bell in Hand or any of these like little places down here, the one I just showed you, it's always a good time. One of the biggest gripes that the people in Boston have is the 2 a.m. close time for a lot of these places. A lot of places are not open past 2 a.m. So not an issue for me. I'm usually in bed by 10, but for you big time partiers, something to keep in mind for sure. White Bull Tavern, excellent nighttime spot. Absolutely fantastic wings and pizza too. Absolutely check that place out. Now we're approaching Faneuil Hall, a very influential historical site here in Boston. A lot of political speeches, a lot of rallies, kind of very imperative place in terms of both the revolution and ongoing from there. Now right next to Faneuil Hall as well is the Quincy Market, which in my opinion boasts as a reminder that Boston is one of the best and most diverse food cities in the world, and I will put reputation on that. I fully believe that. That's in a video later to come, so we're not going to deep dive into the food, but just know if you come here, the food is going to be fantastic. Again, early morning, so not a lot open, not a lot going on, but once it gets popping in the afternoon, you got Greek food, you got Thai food, you got Japanese food, Chinese food, Italian, pizza, frozen yogurt, clam chowder, lobster rolls. The list goes on. Unbelievable. It's so good. The site of the Boston Massacre, where 5 Americans were killed by British soldiers in 1770, which sparked the first few signs of the American Revolution. It's also the old State House, one of the oldest buildings in this city. And we're slowly making our way towards the financial district, aptly named as one of the economic hubs of Boston. Right in front of us is the Old South Meeting House, where a debate happened just prior to the events that led to the Boston Tea Party. Thinking, what could be so historic about a Chipotle? That Chipotle is actually the Old Corner Bookstore, which is one of the oldest commercial hubs in the entire city. And you can get double chicken for only $2.50 more. Now we're standing at the Old City Hall, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful buildings in Boston. Not to be confused with the new City Hall, which looks like a communist prison. So, just behind me is everybody's favorite American, Ben Franklin, often linked to Philadelphia, born in Boston, so I think we got him. And then up next on the Freedom Trail is going to be the Beantown Pub, which is the most significant pub in my life. They have fantastic wings, great drinks, pool table. You can drink a Sam Adams while looking at Sam Adams' grave. Very historical and important. What is actually up next is the Granary Burial Ground, which houses the graves of Paul Revere, Sam Adams, and other significant Bostonians. And like a lot of public grounds in Boston, it's very neat, very organized, very well kept, very well run, too. You'll notice that a lot in Boston. And just behind me now is the Park Street Church, one of the meeting grounds for some of the earliest talks of the Revolution. And we have a great patriot right in front of us. And our last stop of the Freedom Trail is going to be the Boston Common, one of the oldest public parks in the country. So as someone who's lived in just north of Boston, about 15-20 minutes north of Boston my whole life, worked in the city for 3 years in construction, I feel like I'm qualified enough to talk about some quick points of the city. So that's what we're going to do. So first, the cleanliness. All of the public spaces in Boston, I think they do a very good job kind of keeping everything clean, organized, neat. Everything seems to be pretty well run in terms of public spaces. Safety, talking from a guy's perspective, because that's the only one I have, I think it's an extremely safe city. Obviously it's a big city in the United States, always just, be wary walking at night, kind of stuff like that, but nothing above and beyond. Walkability, the city is very walkable, I think it's one of the more walkable cities in the US. All the neighborhoods are interconnected. It's not a huge city compared to some of the rest, but I'd say it's pretty walkable. The public transport, this is going to be controversial, because I worked in the city for 3 years. I took public transit, once, twice a week, pretty often on the T, and I think it's great. A lot of people, don't take my word for it, I mostly take the blue and the green line whenever I'm taking the train, and those seem to be two of the better lines that run. I know some red line and orange line people would disagree with me, but I think the public transportation, the train, the T, I think it's great. It operates well. The commuter rail goes out pretty far if you want to leave Boston. A lot of options to go, kind of like a weekend trip here and there. I'm a fan of public transportation. That might be controversial to some people, and if it is, let me know what you think. But I'm personally a fan of the T. I know that's rare for someone in Boston to say that, but I am. And then kind of like the last thing when you're kind of looking at a city is the cost. The city, it's a very, very expensive city. One of the most expensive cities in the United States, maybe one of the most expensive cities in the world. I'll put some data or something to back that up if that's actually true, but it feels like it. Hotel rooms are extremely expensive. Going out to eat, going out to dinner, going to get drinks, all of it's very, very pricey. I'd say that's the biggest downfall of Boston for sure. It's just the cost of living, the expenses of everything. It's very, very pricey, and I won't sugarcoat that. And they kind of just like the vibe of the city. Boston, it's a fun city. It's a sports town, right on the water. The weather in the summer is absolutely fantastic, absolutely lovely. Fall and springs are here and there, usually pretty good. Winters are rough, especially this past winter. It was one of the coldest, some of the highest snowfall we've seen. The early morning, again, I was working construction for 3 years, so you have those 5 a.m. commutes in the freezing cold, snow, whatever's going on, sleet. It's just, that's, to me, the two biggest cons are the Boston winters, because they are brutal, and then the very, very pricey cost of living. So, the question of, is Boston worth it? Here's my answer. I think if you're a history buff, if you are into city, into walking, into exploring, into sightseeing, into wonderful nature, into great oceans, the city's definitely for you. If you are looking for somewhere to party, or somewhere to have a deep nightlife, or somewhere to where you're not as interested, because people, you don't have to be interested in history. If you're not super interested into that, I'd say maybe not. But if you have at least some knack for history, if you are into walking, if you like putting yourself on like a city tour and walking, I would definitely recommend it. I mean, I've lived here my whole life. I'm extremely biased. I'm not going to not recommend Boston to people, because I think it's one of the best cities in the world. But that being said, it has its cons. So there's my little take on, is Boston worth it in 2026? I believe so. But I would like to thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and subscribe for some more. Bye.